Okay, dear friends, let's get back into where we left off last time. And where was that? We were describing who here is a perfect 10. Who here is a perfect 10? The Aseret Dibrot, the 10 Commandments. Yeah? What did you think I was referring to?
Me.
Me. I can't make this joke, but fine. Okay. We were describing the Aseret HaDibrot. Let's do a little chazara. Chazara, what's the word chazara? I'll write it down. Chazara. A little review. Yeah, chazara is to repeat. Yeah. Let's review a little bit. Okay? We said, if you remember, let's do this again. Friends, computers only have the blank pages. And no phones, please, unless you want to tag me on Facebook. You can do that after class. That's okay. Believe me, I'm more addicted to my phone than all of you put together. So, I get you. Okay, so we're discussing the 10, we call them the 10 Commandments because there was a famous movie called that, right? But actually, they're not the 10 Commandments. Other people describe it, they're 10 statements. 10 statements, right? And we say they were given on 2 tablets in Hebrew. 2 luchot. Remember, all these words you need to write down. Luchot. Okay? 2 luchot, 2 tablets, 2 blocks, we said. The design was very unique and very specific. Why were they designed? Remember the design? My dear friends, hello? Hello? There were 2 blocks. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. And they were cut into the rock. They were cut into the rock. Why were they cut into the rock? More permanent. There's some of the statements that needs to be cut in. How do you say, and I'm doing this for a reason. How do you say cut in? It's charut ala luchot. Charut means to engrave. Luchot means tablets. Luach for one. Actually, this board in Hebrew is actually a luach, by the way, as a side point. Engraved, cut in.
Wait, how do you say it?
How do you say what? Charut. Charut means engraved, cut in. Usually, when you write something, it's ink on parchment, yeah? Or paper, and that's on top. This is cut in. There's a reason why. I mean, I'll tell you right now. Because the laws have to be cut into our hearts. Chiseled in. Theory, okay, sister?
Yeah.
Just stretching, pulling, reading over there.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. They have to be engraved. Charut. Al haluchot. Then we ask. Please ask me. Don't worry. You can always ask me.
What does that say?
Aseret. Actually, it's not a tzadi, by the way. It's my mistake. It's meant to be a sin. I'm very, very sorry. Aseret hadibrot. I'm thinking of Shmini Atzeret. I'm so sorry. Aseret hadibrot. The 10 statements. Remember that? 10 statements, but usually translated as 10 commandments. But what I'm going to show you is that there are not 10 commandments in the 10 commandments. That's weird, right? There are actually, we know, 13. I'll explain why a little bit later. Follow with me. This is just a recap, a chazara. So they were given on 2 tablets. Okay, so these 10 were pulled out of the 613, right? 613 were referred to as Tar Yad, right? 400, 200, 10, 3 comes to 613. If someone says you Tar Yad mitzvot, they're not referring to a word, it's actually a numerical value. So that's Tar Yad. So now we have 10 pulled from these 613. And we said, why? So somehow these 10 are going to separate them. And why were they given on 2 blocks? And we said, well, the different mitzvot. These mitzvot are, look in your notes, Ben, Adam, La, Makom, write this down, sisters. Between us and Makom, we said, are one of the names of God. Remember this? Sound familiar? And these mitzvot are Ben, Adam, La, Chavero. Chavero. Between us and each other. Ben Adam La Chavero. And they are separate but equal. Remember we said that? So we have two Ram. So now we're going to see, by the way, as the course continues, when we get to mitzvot in more detail, we're going to see that there's a lot more mitzvot that fill up here or fill up here. Right? Are we good? Friends? Senoritas? Okay, great. Then we say, wait a minute. There is a famous rabbi called Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. What do we know him as? Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. Rashi. Yeah, Rashi. He is considered one of the most foremost commentators. He was from France. Who's from France over here? We have French, don't we? Who's from France? Yeah? You have to remember for a second. Where am I from? I don't remember. You're Paris, though, right? How far away are you from Troy? Troyes, it's called? Troyes. Troyes. Like the number 3, yeah. Interesting. But spelled differently, right? Because Troyes is where he came from, and it's Troi. S? Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't do so good in French at school. I gotta say. The only thing I learned to say in French, by the way, was Je n'ai pas de chien, which means I don't have a dog. And then I bought a dog. I couldn't even use that line. Always sound that bloody once. Okay, anyway. Alrighty, great. How far away is that from Paris, by the way? They just made, I just read. This past Shabbat, they made a whole museum and had a lot of non-Jews going to visit the home birthplace of Rashi. Rashi lived 1,000 years ago. There's a whole museum over there. So it's really cool, interactive thing. And many non-Jews go and visit this place. They educate a lot of people in Troyes. Whatever. So he has a commentary on the Torah. Actually on the Gemara. He's the most famous commentator on the Torah and the Gemara. You learn Chumash, and then pretty much every Chumash underneath you'll have Rashi. By the way, whose words are next to the Chumash? Whose words are next to Hashem's words? Onkelos, who was a convert to Judaism. Actually a Roman, very important Roman from a very prestigious family who converted to Judaism and wrote an Aramaic translation to the Torah. And you read his words, imagine that, imagine a convert gets their words next to God's. Pretty epic, right? Interestingly, the first time the Ten Commandments are mentioned in the Torah is in Parshat Yitro. And Yitro was Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law, and he is considered the first ever convert to Judaism. As a side point, why the Ten Commandments appear in his parsha, which also happens to be my bar mitzvah parsha. Right? I didn't sing it well. Let me check first. Right? Here's another question. Okay, fine. So those are Ten Commandments. So what does Rashi say? Do you remember from last class? What does Rashi from Troyes say about this? He says, I'm going to add something else over here. What does he add to our conversation, my dear friends? Why does he say these two blocks are put next to each other?
Because they relate.
They relate
1, 6, 2, 7.
horizontally, yeah. He says the fact that it means that when you put things next to each other, you're comparing them, right? If you make two people stand in front of you, you're comparing them. Right? If you have two documents or pictures, you're comparing them. We're comparing. He says that number 1 is related to number 6. 2, 7, 3, 4, 9, 5, 10. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yes, Rabbi. Try that again. Yes, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Good, fantastic. Then we can move on. So what we're going to do now is continue where we started. And we started with the first mitzvah in the Aseret HaDibrot. What was the first mitzvah in the Aseret HaDibrot? Somebody, anybody, please. To Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am the Lord your God. Right? Not me, right? But Anochi. And we said Anochi means I. But Ani also means I. What do we say Anochi also means?
I and only.
I and only I. Very good. Ana. Nafshi Ketavti Yahavti. I, my soul, has been written and given. Says the Gemara. Hashem said, you want to know who I am? You want to know God? Learn Torah. Right? So I have these students say to me, Rabbi, I don't believe in God. I'm like, have you read the Torah? I don't know. Then you're not an atheist. You're an idiot. How can you refer to yourself, right? I don't say that. I think you know that. How can you learn the Torah? Hashem is saying, you want to know the Torah? You know me. Learn Torah. I mean, but I look at the rainbows, that's all good. I look at a sunrise, I feel close to Hashem. That's all good, by the way. That's real. That's not something to be laughed at. It's a real thing. But learning the Torah is number one. What does it say at the end of the pasuk? This is the bit we haven't finished yet. I'm the Lord your God who
Took you out of Egypt.
took you out of Egypt. Right, look at the pasuk on page 10 of your books. Page 10 of your books. Anoch Hashem Elokecha asher hotzoticha, who took you out of Eretz Mitzrayim. Out of Mitzrayim. Let's look at that word for a minute. Remember, we're going to talk about this maybe next week. Hebrew is not just giving us another language, it's describing things to us on a much deeper level. I'll explain more another time, but let's just do one word. Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim we translate as Egypt. Yeah? Where the Jewish people were slaves for 210 years. But the word Mitzrayim has inside it another word. Not a common word, but another word. Anyone know what that word is? Yeah, which is? Oh, young, you want to say? Tzirim? Oh, pregnant. Okay, that's interesting. Could be. I've never heard that before. I saw some mamash inside the word. Metzar. What's metzar? Is? How you say this in the English is? Narrow, confined, trapped. There was a prison. But not just a physical prison, because we got out, I don't care. It was also a spiritual prison. The Jewish people were trapped we were slaves, from expressing their connection to Hashem, to God. Right? As we say, Mina Meitza Karatiyah. Hi, good morning, hello.
What's the word?
Metzar. Metzar. Can you see it in there? Metzar. Tsar is narrow. Metzar is a narrow confine, trapped. So the word itself, it's not a coincidence. It's telling us something about the place. This Egypt is the geographic location. Mitzrayim is the idea that we were stuck in this place called Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is not just a place, it's a place of mind. You can be enslaved in your own mind. Okay, that's, when we discuss Pesach, we'll go into a lot more detail about that, God willing. Okay, which will actually be next semester in my holidays class. So we were Mitzrayim. So why does the pasuk have to tell me that this is, I'm the Lord God who took you out of Mitzrayim? Why is that important? Why do I care? Why do I care? Why does Hashem make his big opening statement? I'm the Lord your God who
Took you out of Egypt.
took you out of Egypt. Why? What would be better than that? You want to impress people that you're the great God, the one and only God? How would you make your opening statement? What would be your opening statement? Created the world. Does it say that? No. What else could you say? Created you. You wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for me. You're like, oh, that's good. You got me there. Oh, yeah. You can see through your eyes. That's because of me, says Hashem. That's impressive, right? This is a job interview, and God's trying to interview, which it isn't, but let's say it was. And God turns up and says, I'd like to be your God. You're like, well, what have you got to show for it? Is your heart beating? Yeah, that's because of me. Like, well, you got the job, that's impressive. You have eyeballs, you can breathe? That's because of me. I created the universe, the planets, the stars. Do you know how many stars there are? Let's talk about this for a second. How many stars are there in the known universe? How many stars? I mean actual stars, not Tom Cruise. I mean actual stars. How many stars are there? They did a study in Australia, right? They counted the stars. I guess in Australia they're so bored of nothing to do except count sheep, I guess, right? So if you're Australian, be offended. So, how many stars? They actually counted. They actually mapped a piece of sky. They counted how many stars, and they mapped out that piece on the. Do you know what they came up with? 70. You can look this up. 76 stillion. 7 with the number 0. I think 36 times, which is, in case you want to understand, the number 7 with 36 zeros is the same as every single grain of sand in the entire world. Every beach, every desert, every footpath in the entire world times 10. That's how many stars there are. Let's just digest, let's just download that for a second. And each one is its own, right? That's how many stars there are. Every grain of sand, every grain. Epic. And yet Hashem says, I'm not going to take you out of Egypt. Why? Why is this so important? It's so important. We're going to see many, many mitzvot, 36 that I know, but probably many more, actually come back to, you know why you do this? Because you were slaves in Egypt, I took you out. Why is this important? Why is this so important? Why do we need to know this? Why is it repeated again? Zecher, Yetziat, Mitzrayim, to remember you were slaves in Egypt, I took you out. What does that do?
I heard once that God decided to say that in order for us to think that He was like trying to like help us, like I wanna like I have a relationship with you. I took you out of Egypt. I'm not the creator of the universe. Okay, I am, but I wanna have a relationship.
You hear these holy words? Friends, listen well. Very nice. You see, were there gods at this time when the Jewish people left Egypt? You said, like, were there gods? Do people believe in God? Yeah. Most people believed in small g gods. Yeah? There were thousands of them. Remember Paro? He had that book of thousands of gods that his son brought him when Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm here. But they all had one thing in common. They were scared. Humans were scared of them, and they tried to appease them by bringing sacrificing their own kids, worshipping them. That's what they used to do. Moshe Rabbeinu said, this is different. This is the God of love. And this God that I'm talking about, the Yud with the Hey, is the God of mercy. Rachamim, we said that the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, remember we said this? Was this not good? And it's personal. Personal. How do you prove you love someone? You help them. Saving their life, that's big. It makes a personal relationship. So this is not, I'm God, this is God, I'm personal with you. I have a direct, this is a very big change in world history. This is a very big change. I'm the Lord your God who actually has a personal relationship. I'm involved in your personal life, in you, and you, and you, and you. Not just some random God who's just like out there, watching or not watching over stuff. Okay? So that's why it mentions, says the Ramban, Rav Moshe ben Nachman, why it says Mitzrayim. Okay. With that said, we now have to jump to the other side. What other side am I talking about?
These 6.
Number 6. Now, if what I'm saying is true, and if Rashi is right, which he is, number 1 should relate to number 6, yeah? So what's number 6? What is commandment number? By the way, you're going to learn these 10 commandments. When I went to Jewish day school, I graduated. I went to yeshiva in Israel. I graduated for a year. I came back to go to university. I was on a bus, and a priest got on the bus. Like a British priest with a collar. These guys you've seen before, the collar? And when someone's going to sit next to you on the bus, you're like, oh no, come right for it. Plenty of empty chairs. And he sees me, and he's like, right for that guy, right? He sits next to me. He goes, are you Jewish? And I was like, what gave it away? My yarmulke, my nose, what gave it away? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, I have a question for you. I was like, oh, I wasn't a rabbi. I was like, yes, my child or my father, what is your question? And he said, the 10 Commandments. He asked me some question, I don't remember what it was, I'm going back many, many years, at least 2. And he said to me, no, 30 years. And he says to me, why is this, I think it was the order of the 10 Commandments, because they have a different order, which is really weird, by the way. Don't understand, because the order that we know is in the Torah. Exodus chapter 20, Shemot Chav. So I don't know why they have a different order. It's the strangest thing, but we'll leave that aside. It's another question, not for now. And he asked the question, and I realized I didn't know the 10 Commandments. I went to yeshiva my entire life, I was in Israel, and I didn't know how to list them off. So I made a decision there and then to go home and do nothing. But many years later, I said I better study what the 10 Commandments are. Okay, so what is commandment number 6? Remember, we're going sideways, yeah? I don't understand what we're doing over here. If you don't, please ask. Don't be shy to ask questions. In other classes, you're not going to get a chance to ask so many questions, believe me. You just run through assumed knowledge. Number 6 is No, that's number two. No. No, you're naming all the rest of them. You're gonna hit it eventually, sisters. Yes, Olivia. Lo tirtzach. Thank you so much. Which means what? Don't murder. Murder. Now, murder is actually a good word. It's lo tirtzach, or as I sang it as a 13-year-old, lo tirtzach. I had a very high voice for it. Right. Lo tirtzach, which means do not murder. I like murder. I mean, I don't like murder. I mean, I like the word murder because it's different to kill. Kill is not accurate. You are allowed to kill. Really? Judaism says you can kill. Yeah. Like in self-defense. Yeah. The person chasing after you with a gun, you're like, well, I can't kill. I better run. Like, no. Right, if you have a bigger gun, turn around and shoot them. Who says their blood is any redder than yours? So this is murder. Murder means not with any benefit, not because this person is a threat right now or could be a threat in the future. It's also a very big question. The Israeli army has to figure that out. They have a very strong moral code in the Israeli army. Right? The person we know has information, or maybe and they could kill someone in 5 years, 10 years, right? Or 6 minutes, I'm allowed to kill that person. I mean, these are questions that need to be discussed. Many other armies are like, no discussion, right? Oh, got the wrong person, I'll try again, right? But no, right? So killing is permitted in circumstances, okay? But murder is not. Can I ask a very strange question? This is a real question, by the way. It's not rhetorical. I would think about this deeply for a minute. It's the only time you get this question ever, because no one asks such a silly question. Oh, there's no such a silly question. There's silly answers, no silly questions. What's wrong with murder? Seriously. What's wrong with killing someone? What's the big deal? What's the big deal? They're annoying me. They're irritating me. Right? I mean, let's say I was a lion and I'm hungry. Do you ever see those like shows where the lions are chasing? Oh, they always take the side of the lion. I know the antelope, whatever it is, right? Like, get away from them. Well, the lion's got to eat. Why are we taking the side of the antelope? Hope he gets away. Why is that? The lion has to have a nice meal. The lion catches it, takes the bat out of its neck. Is that lion evil? No, it's just doing what it's naturally made to do. Well, I was born naturally to kill people. I'm hungry. I've nothing to eat. Mrs. Cohen is walking down the street with a pocketbook full of cash. I'm hungry, so I take a bite out of her neck, or I bang her on the head with a brick, take the money, I get to eat, I get to survive. Is that good or bad? Very judgmental. Bad. But some people are like, well, it's bad. But why? How does the lion get away with it, and I don't get away with it? What's wrong with murder? Yeah.
Well, first off, you're taking away the opportunity of life that may change the world because of ripple effects. And second...
Well, let's say that person, okay, it's a fair point. We can get into that a little bit more. Let's say a person won't. They're in a coma. There's nothing they could do. So I just pull the plug. Boop, they're gone.
Yeah, but you're not...
More electricity for the rest of us.
Yeah, but that's God saying that, like, you know what I mean? You shouldn't pull the... Like, they shouldn't be on the plug anyways. Like, why are they on life support if that's against the Torah?
Who says it's not against the Torah? No, heaven forbid. No. You pull the plug to kill them. I'm saying you pull the plug to kill them. No, it's not against the Torah.
I thought it was. No, anyways.
We want to keep people alive. And really, even 1 second of life, I'll tell you a side point, sorry, since you brought it up. You're allowed to break Shabbat in order to save a life.
Yeah.
Even if that life is in a coma, right? We don't say, well, maybe they'll do something good in the future. It's a discussion, right? But let's say a normal, healthy person. Well, leaving aside. Leo?
Because one time I saw on this, it would say that we cannot bring the person's go out in our hands because God has a plan for that.
So, Leo's bringing a whole God picture in me. You're very religious, Leo, I'll tell you that. You're saying God's got a plan for everyone. Who are we, right? Life's not a lottery, a chorale, and who am I to come along and make that decision? It's God's decision. Well, let's say I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. Right? So why can't I kill? I hope you have an answer, or we're all in big trouble over here.
That he could kill. People do it.
And the answer is, yeah, they do. There have been governments that did it. Right? Many governments that did it and said, you know what, you're taking too many resources, I don't like the way you look, you're Jewish, right, you're black, you're whatever you are, I'm just going to wipe you out. And who says they can't? The answer is going to have to be in some way. I mean, on an ethical moral, that we believe that humans are different animals. I know in the biology textbooks they say there's human animals and non-human animals. We don't believe that. Humans are different. Humans are different.
Or like at a higher level.
A different level, yeah. Having an neshama. We say that. You're going to have to say, otherwise, what is really, coming out to a big word, what is the difference? So now we have two things happening over here. Number one is I am God, and the other side are. What's the connection over here? By the way, as a side point, can you kill God?
No.
Yeah, you can.
So Robert, can you kill God?
Yourself. Like,
Beautiful, right? You basically don't believe in God. So in a sense, for yourself, you're not literally killing God, right? But you're killing God in this world, right? So what's the key? Well, we're going to have 5 connections by the end. What's the key connection between these two? One word. Acknowledgement. That's the way I was taught it. Acknowledgement. We acknowledge God. That's the first law. Up. And we acknowledge each other. How do you acknowledge other people? Don't kill them. It's probably the biggest diss you can give someone. Right? You kill them, remove their... You've taken on God's job, as we all said. You've taken on God's position. Now, there are times when you can't kill, and even God says, I mean, in Judaism, we had the death penalty. It was very, very, very rarely used. But a person can forfeit the right to life, no doubt about it. But now we're saying, I acknowledge everyone else. That's the other luach, sideways, and I acknowledge one God. You get the game? So you have 2 commandments, and we're saying the relation between us and God is not just like we should treat each other the same way we treat them. We're saying that we can learn one out from the other. Okay? Everyone get the game? Yes.
So, like, for example.
Marcella, right?
Yeah.
Got
So, for
it.
example, like, in class, you know how he took away one line?
Yeah.
In the acknowledgement of Hashem. So, does that, like, still fall in the same category? Like,
Yeah, in that case, that unusual circumstance, there was a death penalty. He knew it. He enacted it. Right? People go to war. You don't say, it's a mitzvah. It's something called a milchemet mitzvah. It says once. It may not be a pleasant mitzvah, it's still a mitzvah. We don't go like, yeah, go. I'm like, that's what it is. Yeah? We're not pacifists. People think Jews are pacifists. We're not pacifists. We want to defend ourselves. I always say that's the Israeli army is called the IDF. Israeli Defense Force. I have to think that's a very moral concept. You want to hear that in other universities. Enjoy it at YU, my friends. Yes.
I didn't
Really
understand the relationship with number 1.
So number 1 is you believe you've got to acknowledge God.
Yes.
Right? How do you kill God? By not acknowledging Him. So you have to acknowledge, that's the first tablet. Second tablet is you acknowledge each other. So we're going sideways.
So
How do you acknowledge each other? By not killing them. By not killing each other, right? So that's the connection. Okay, next, let's move on. We'll go a little faster. Number 2.
O sea, si no haces
What's
la
commandment
uno,
number
si
2?
no crees en él, lo estás matando, entonces ya no estás cumpliendo con la 6. Entonces, para cumplir con
This is
la
my
6,
class in Spanish if you're interested. It sounds better. Oh, luz, okay, what's commandment number 2? That's what it sounds like to me. Commandment number 2 is don't have any other gods. Actually, this commandment, if you look at the Torah, is actually 4. That's why I said there are 13 commandments in the 10 commandments, because you have 9, and then this one is 4. There's 4 different parts to this particular mitzvah, right? Worshipping gods where they normally worship, where they are worshipped, different parts of it. But that's not so important, right? Lo yelacha Elohim achirim. Do not have any other gods, right? We usually describe this as avodah zara, right? Which literally means unusual worship. Avodah is worship. Zara is strange, right? No other gods. Does that mean there's other gods?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
They
Yeah, no.
exist, like they exist in concept, but they don't exist in practice. Like,
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to put it, right? People make things into gods. I mean, we're talking about idol worship here, basically. Idol worship. Not American idol worship, that's another disease, right? Idol worship. Idol worship. This is big. Out of all the sins in the Torah, the one, and we have to describe this, well, there's actually one other one that's also related to this, we'll see in a second, actually. That's really bad is idol worship. Putting faith and belief and practice into other gods. Now, this was done many ways. Really, nowadays, we don't really have idol worship. Happens to be that people in my online classes get very upset when I post this. I have a lot of Christians, probably more Christians than Jews that watch my classes, ironically. Isn't that just the way? It's like a Jew and a non-Jew on the subway. How can you tell the difference? Right? The Christians reading the Bible and the Jews reading the New York Times. Right? Sadly, it's a joke, but it's sad, really, right? So, happens to be that we don't have idol worship really nowadays. If we had real idol worship, we couldn't even do business with these people. But Christianity, although people hate to hear this, smacks of it. Because they believe that Jesus is God. Right? He's the trifecta, right? Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. So, ironically, Islam does not believe that Jesus was God. They don't believe that Muhammad was God, they believe he was a prophet. So we actually have more in common with Islam. You're allowed to pray in a mosque, and actually I do about once a year. I know religious people who pray almost every day in the mosque. What do I mean when I say that? What mosque am I talking about? You look at me very strangely, all of you. What?
Next to the Kotel.
Mar Machpelah, right? In Hebron, where our forefathers were, it's actually used as a mosque sometimes during the year. That would not be allowed with Christianity.
Why is the place above the Kotel like?
That's something else. That's something else. But I mean, you can't walk up there for different reasons. Not because there's a mosque next to it. That's because it's the place of the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy of Holies, and you can't walk on that because it's holy soil. That's something else. No, we're talking about a mosque. But you probably are not allowed to walk into a church. Actually, not probably. You're not allowed to walk into a church because it smacks of avodah zarah. Church itself. Interesting question, happens to be as a side point, the Sistine Chapel, right, which many rabbis say you cannot. I spoke to a very, very big rabbi, I actually wrote a book about it, and he said you can because nowadays it's not used for worship, it's used as a museum more than anything else. And by the way, seeing the Sistine Chapel in, I'm talking about Italy, Rome, Michelangelo, fascinating. By the way, I want to think about something. You're in the center of Christendom, right? Vatican City, right there. There's not a single image from the New Testament on the roof. Imagine that. It's all from the Torah. Fascinating. By the way, Michelangelo, we know knew Torah. We know that he knew Torah. How do I know this for sure? He must have, not just Bible, but the Gemara, and probably Kabbalah, by the way. What was the first fruit in the Torah? What was the fruit that Adam and Eve ate from? It was an apple. The Torah does not tell us.
Grape.
One opinion is it was wheat, etrog. Gemara says probably figs. Right? The Gemara says figs. It probably was figs because they used fig leaf afterwards to fix up the mistake. Adam and Eve on the Sistine Chapel, fig tree. Does not say what fruit was in the Torah. How did he know that? He must have known Gemara. How did he know it's figs? Such a random fruit. Fascinating. Anyway, so now we have this thing. Worshipping foreign idols. Yeah.
Quick question. So if you have you can't go to a Christian friend's wedding.
No, you should not walk inside a church for a friend's Christian wedding. You can stand outside. You should not go inside.
So you didn't go into the chapel?
I did not.
Just outside?
No, I went to the Sistine Chapel, but you're right, it's called chapel, but according to certain rabbis, it's not really used as a church. It's used purely as a museum place. People just walking in, So I went with that opinion. I took a group of students there, actually. But there are people who will not walk inside the Sistine Chapel. Yeah?
So okay, just to clarify, as long as you're not doing it for praying purposes, you can go in.
No.
No.
For no reason whatsoever. It's a problem of Marit Ayin, actually, if you want to know. It looks like you may be worshipping there, and we don't want Jews walking in there. It's not real Avodah Zarah. If it was real Avodah Zarah, we'd have a lot of problems. We'll leave that aside. Right? Really, Avodah Zarah does not exist. Although, having said that, I got a friend, he's a rabbi, called Ari Soshtin. He's a surfing rabbi dude, you know what I'm saying, one of these guys. And he went to Bali, and he said to me, dude, for some reason every surfing rabbi has the word dude, right? He said, I've seen real idol worship. Right? In those countries, they're worshiping idols, mate. No mistake.
Which countries?
Bali and these kind of places.
Yeah. Like we go to like a Hindu or like a Buddhist church temple.
Hinduism, is that, are they, again, just because they have symbols doesn't mean they're Avodah Zarah.
Right, but they
It's a little different. They may have symbols, doesn't mean they're worshipping and putting powers into it.
Yeah, but they do like worship the Buddha. Like they don't pray to it, but they
So
do
that, I don't know, that may, again, smack of it may not be full-blown. Avodah Zarah was a really specific thing. They put powers and they worship wood, stone, and various things as well. Okay, fine. What's wrong with worshipping idols, by the way? What does God care? Machbat lo. What does he care? You want to worship me? Fine. Go bow down to a tree as well. Don't bother me. Go worship stone. Go worship people. What do I care? What's it got to do with me? What's the big deal? Why is this considered? We said already that all the commandments of the Torah are found in these 10. All the commandments are found in these 10. Not only that, but all these 10 are found in the first 2. All the positive commandments are found in commandment number 1, and all the negative ones are found in number 2. This is the root of all the bad sins in the Torah. Right? This is the shoresh, the root of it. Why does God care? To answer that, let's jump to the other side. What's commandment number? 7. What is commandment number 7? It ain't stealing, sister. What's commandment number 7? No adultery. Law. Now this is the only time that I know this word is used in the entire Torah. And write it down because it's a very interesting word. I don't remember if you spell it. Tin-af. Tin-af. Very strange word. You don't see that mentioned anywhere else. But here it refers to adultery. Tin-af. It's actually 2 words put next to each other. What are the 2 words? Ten-af. What does ten-af mean? What's 10? 10 is to give. Give. What's af? Af is a nose. Very good, Mackenzie. Af is a nose. Give nose. What does it refer to, though? Anger. The word af means a nose, because when a person gets angry, I breathe through the nose. It actually means anger. Now that's interesting. Give anger, right? I'm going to put it over here because that's not, literally means do not, no adultery. No adultery. That's what it actually means. But it's a very unusual word. Why are the word give anger, ten-af, encoded inside the word for adultery?
Maybe because when you're angry with your partner, you want to get revenge.
It's an interesting answer. But maybe we're not getting each other angry, we're getting God angry. If you look at every time there is sexual immorality in the Torah, and maybe world history, there is always anger and God I don't know what that means, God getting angry. It doesn't sound good. I mean, it's getting my wife angry, which is bad. Getting God angry? Well, in the case of my wife, maybe it's bad, but definitely close. Yeah? That's enough. Do not. God gets angry, he sees the breakdown of the family unit. It comes up again and again and again and again. God breaks it down. Right? That's one of the reasons there was a flood of Noah, because there was sexual immorality, so God wiped out. We don't want that. You really, really don't. Okay. What is the connection? What is the connection between don't worship idols and don't commit adultery? What are those two got to do with each other? What is the lesson of it? Yeah.
So I heard that people say that being angry is the same as having Avodah Zarah.
It is, yeah, it does say that. The
Yes,
Gemara
yeah,
tells it.
right.
We'll discuss anger next semester. We'll get into anger. But we'll discuss it. It is connected. Yeah. Very good. So,
Because that means if you're angry, if something bad happens to you, you're like the situation makes you angry.
yeah.
Like you know that everything that happens is happening like God sends it, like in
You're-
a way
you're-
you're being.
You're focused on the anger. You're so good. I wanted to save that idea. Save it. Right? Keep it in the back of your head. That's the anger. Adultery. Because that's what it literally means. It's related, but adultery and idol worship. How are they connected? Why are they put next to each other? They're two separate laws. What's the connection over there? Yeah.
Is it like you're cheating on God?
Cheating on
Great, that's
God. Cheating
It doesn't
on
matter.
God is exactly right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great, then I definitely.
Yeah, don't it? It's exactly right. Right? God has. Well, one second. If that's right, that means we married God.
Yeah.
Did we marry God?
Yeah.
Where do we marry God?
At
At Mount Sinai. In the Jewish year 2448, 50 days after leaving Egypt. The Gemara even goes to say that the chuppah was Mount Sinai held over our heads like a chuppah. Har kegigit held over us. Suspended. So we married God. So God says, you know what? I want an exclusive relationship. How do I learn about the exclusive nature? One spouse, one God. Exclusivity. I think I know what question you're going to ask because I usually get this question.
Yeah, I thought you like.
Have good multiple wives. Very, I knew exactly what I was asking. And the answer is, according to the Torah, you can. It always failed. And the idea was you were able to give exclusivity to each one. Rarely did it work. It was forbidden. The idea of having multiple marriage partners. Multiple marriage partners was being forbidden. Although actually, parts of the Jewish world did not get the takana of Rabbeinu Gershom. He was the leader of the rabbis of the Jewish population about 1,000 years ago in Europe. He made it forbidden. But Jews in Yemen and in Ethiopia did not get that memo. And they came to Israel, even recently, with many wives. And the rabbinate in Israel had to figure out what to do with them. And they said, you can stay married to your multiple wives, you can't take any more. Remember, for marriage, I know it doesn't sound very nice, marriage is basically a way of surviving. Right? Someone's going to take care of you. It doesn't sound very romantic, but who says it should be? So exclusivity. So we did acknowledgement, yeah? Exclusivity.
I heard that when someone rapes someone, that if the girl wants to
Marry the person,
marry
right?
the
Because they
person,
knew they were.
you
If
can't
they-
divorce them.
Right,
So,
it's a terrible aveira, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Terrible, terrible sin. But it used to be that if
Yes.
she saw this as a way to improve her lot, then she was permitted if she wants to, but not against her will.
and they
That's
said
absolutely right.
they
Right, to marry that
said
person, yeah.
they said that when they put the mountain in our heads, Hashem was like violating. So
No,
he-
chas v'chalila.
so no,
You can't say
so he can't divorce us.
Mm.
Like that, it's our choice.
Okay, that's very, very true. We won't say, right, but yeah, it was basically a very strong, that's absolutely right. This has to, why was the mountain held over our heads, metaphorically? That means that we had to keep to this. We have no choice. We are stuck in a good place, but with hard work. Okay, very good. Yeah, that's true. More about that when we discuss Shavuot. Okay, number 3. Trois. Not the place, the number. Mon cherise. Okay, number 3 is,
Respect.
maybe you know? What's commandment number 3?
No, that's 4.
That's number 4. That's quatre. Like that, quatre. There you go. Not impressed. Heart and French the press.
Oh yes, I think she's right.
She is right. Don't say God's name in vain. Do not use God's name for no reason, which in English we also say in vain. What?
Are we allowed to say God?
Whoa. 1 second. We're going to discuss that. What does that do in the top 10? What does it even mean? Don't use. Where are we? Where are we? Not now. We know where we are right now. Well, I think I do. Where are we where this is taking place? This actually is taking place in a very specific location. Does anyone know what the circumstances are for this sin, this commandment? Anybody know where we are? Nope. No, nowhere this was given. It's referring to a circumstance. You're in Bet Din. The Bet Din, you're in the court of Jewish law. You're in Bet Din, court of law. What do they do in a court of law? They make you, firstly, before you give testimony, you swear, right, on a Bible, a Torah. In America, we still do it. By the way, you're not allowed to do that. You cannot swear on a Torah. Very, very dangerous. You can affirm. When Ambassador Friedman was sworn in, you'll see when Mike Pence swore him in, he did not say I swear, he said I affirm. You don't want to swear. That's a big, swear in God's name.
In the army, they do that sometimes.
You shouldn't say Shavua. It's never Shavua. You say I affirm, you hold a Torah up. In the army, they don't make you swear. It's not a Shavua. It's like I affirm.
Some people want to, they like a lot of people, most of them say I swear, but a lot of people are they don't do that.
You should not do that. The Dati people don't do it because you should not do it. Terrible thing. You should not do it, not do it. Here, stop, please, my darling. The chattering outside gets to my head. Okay, so you're in a Bet Din. So what's going on? So they're like, okay, fine, you're now being held in front of a court of law. You got to swear in, right? It's basically you're swearing on God's name that this happened or didn't happen. You got to be very, very careful with that. Taking God's name. Why is that such a big deal? What's on the other side? Let's figure out we're going to the other side. What's commandment number?
To steal.
Oh, boom.
Do you see it enough? You got it right.
You got it, right? La, tig, no. Tig, no. Do not steal. Now listen very carefully. I need your attention, all of you. You're not allowed to steal. Bad news for some of you, but it's reality. What are you stealing over here? Or what are you forbidden from stealing? Now remember, this made the Ten Commandments. It's got to be really bad. What is this? It's not money. It can. Elsewhere it says you cannot steal money, right? In Sefer Vayikra, not over here. This cannot be stealing things. How do I know? Because you are liable for the death penalty. It's a capital crime. Guys. You want to talk outside. It's a capital crime. You're put to death for this. It's got to be something really bad. What are you killed for stealing? What are you killed for stealing in Judaism? That means it's like we don't kill nowadays, but it's a really bad thing. Well, let me ask you this. What's the most precious possession you own? Life. How do you steal life? We already did murder. It can't be murder. Murder is mentioned elsewhere. You don't steal life, you killed someone.
Isn't if you like embarrass?
Embarrassing someone is like killing them to some degree, but that's not what it's referring to over here.
Isn't it kidnapping?
Kidnapping, yeah.
Oh, like actually.
Kidnapping.
Wait, how do you pronounce it? Law what?
Lot tignov. Lot tignov. Now, usually that word is used, generally speaking, for stealing things, and it does mean that as well. But over here, specifically in the Ten Commandments, it talks about kidnapping. Is kidnapping such a big deal? Is it?
Yes.
Oh, well, somebody from South American countries probably, yeah, we're talking about that every day, right? But actually, here in America, in the United States, it was a massive, and then people are still talking about it all the time. What kind of stealing am I talking about that is still being spoken about to this day in America? It doesn't happen anymore, thank God. But it was massive. Actually, people say this whole country was infected with it. Slavery. Isn't actually slavery, by the way, is the real definition of this geneva. Again, usually geneva means stealing things, but over in the Ten Commandments it refers, isn't slavery stealing? You're taking actually it's the real the Torah definition. Taking a person against their will and making them work for you. That's the real stealing over here. That is totally against Torah law.
Jews cannot have slaves.
Absolutely not. You may have an Eved. Now that's different. People confuse it. You have an Eved Kanani or an Eved Ivri, a Jewish or non-Jewish slave. That person is someone who owes money, has a debt, and that person has to work off their debt. And they get released as soon as they do, or max within 7 years. In many cases, they want to stay on. Absolutely, you have that. But this is important. They're treated very, very well. They're basically what's called an indentured servant. They have to work for you. They have to work for you, yeah. But kidnapping against their will, they work for you? Absolutely not. The law, shum ofen, which means no way, Jose. Okay? What's the connection? What's the connection? Let's think a little bit. So I'll make you think on a Tuesday morning.
You're stealing God.
Stealing God. Can you steal God? Is that possible? It's also like, can you steal God? Strange God. I mean, you spoke about murdering God, but can you kidnap God?
Yes.
You can misuse him. What aspect of God can you misuse, which is like stealing God? His name. His name. For your own purposes. Where will you do that? In a court of law. In a court of law. This is not lying, by the way. Lying is not one of the 10 Commandments, or we'd all be in big, big trouble. This is specific in a court of law. What does that mean? You say, me and God were like this. As God is my witness, I promise to tell the truth, I'll do that. As God, if you're lying, or you're doing it for no reason, which actually may be this real case, you're cheapening God's name, God's identity, like identity theft. Right? The worst thing you could do to someone is to accuse them of something that's not true, using them for your own nefarious purposes, stealing their identity. There's one thing we have God in this world. We can't see God, touch God, smell God, you can feel God. But God's name is here. And cheapening that because, yeah, I didn't steal $1 million. God will, I bring the Bible in. Oh, that's big stuff. It was done. But it's a very, very nefarious and dangerous game to play. So what's the connective word over here maybe? Respect. We respect God's name and we respect each other by not kidnapping each other. I would say that's the third of our 5 concepts. And by the way, these are 10 things that we brought to the world. I mean, Christianity really popularized them, but it comes from our Torah. It comes from our Bible. Our Bible. Yeah? Okay,
So
Sinanitas.
we're not allowed to have slaves?
No, you're not allowed to have you can have a person working for you, pay off the debt, they must treat it, cannot be against their will. Cannot happen against their will. Totally asur.
She's saying Christian.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, they don't interpret it the way we interpret it. Yes.
הגויים יש להם 7. למה?
They go what?
They have 7 books. 7 commandments. למה?
They do have 7 commandments. They are not related to this. We'll go through that later on the semester of why the non-Jews have mitzvah. They have Sheva mitzvah b'nei Noach. And we'll go through what those 7 are. We have 613. They have 7. Really 7 that become 48 or 49. It's a lot more. They have less mitzvah than us. They have a different mission, different role in this world. We're going to talk about that, Leo, I promise. We'll get there. Okay, let's finish off. Let's do commandment number 4. What is commandment number 4? Remember, you're going to memorize these, and these are going to be in your midterms. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
Now. I'm going to share 2 very important Hebrew words. The 10 commandments are mentioned twice in the Torah. In Shemot, in Parshat Yitro, and in Devarim, Parshat V'etchanan. They're identical except for a few words. They're identical except for a few words. Here, one of those words are different, and the difference is really, really important, like mega important. Question.
You said they're mentioned in Shemot and...
Shemot and in V'etchanan. Parshat V'etchanan in the book of Devarim, book of Deuteronomy. Yeah? So here we're discussing Shabbat. Interesting. Yom Kippur did not make the top 10. Interesting, right? Would you put Shabbat there? Pesach. That's more people are doing Pesach than Yom Kippur does not make it here. We see actually that Shabbat is the most important Jewish day. More than Yom Kippur. Actually, Yom Kippur is only Yom Kippur because Shabbat is called Shabbat Shabbaton Yom Kippur. I never go to synagogue in Yom Kippur, but if I had my way, I'd kick them all out and make them come for Shabbat. You may see them the rest of the year. These once-a-year Jews, we call them, or twice a year. You may get them Rosh Hashanah as well, right? You know I'm talking. You know I'm talking about. Bring him Simchat Torah, you see him again. Bring him Purim, you see him again. But Shabbat is very, very important. By the way, just the word itself. I'm very into words. Words reveal things to us. We'll see why. The word Shabbat, what does it actually mean? Rest, right? Actually, to sit down is shev. What else does it mean? There's another word inside there. To, yeah, I need to rest, right? We said rest. What else does it mean? There's another word in there. It's coded. Shuv. Shuv. What does shuv mean?
Come back, return.
To come back, to return. Oh, that's interesting. Suddenly, Shabbat isn't just like hanging out, relaxing, doing nothing. It's about returning. Who or what am I returning to?
God.
Hashem, creation, myself? There's a lot going on over here. Shabbat is the most important day. Actually, without Shabbat, someone once said, more than the Jewish people keep Shabbat, Shabbat keeps the Jewish people. It's a very famous statement. Machloka too said, but it happens to be very, very true. But Shuv, it returns us. It returns us somewhere. Okay, where it turns us to is a good question. What are the words that are used to describe Shabbat in the Torah? 2 different words, and each of them are very, very important. And you're going to write these down, because we're going to learn out important halachot, actually an important halakha for women specifically from these 2 words.
Lighting candles. Lighting candles.
All the mitzvot of Shabbat we're going to learn for women from these 2 words. So the Torah says there's 2 reasons we keep Shabbat. By the way, it's very rare the Torah gives us reasons for mitzvot, but it does over here. 2 reasons for Shabbat. Write this down, my holy sisters. Reason number 1. You have to guard Shabbat.
Oh, I think so.
Guard, right? In Hebrew, shamor et Shabbat. Guard it. And number 2 is zachor, to remember.
Isn't this the 2 candles? How they call it?
Yeah, shamor v'zachor. One of the reasons that people have the custom to have 2 candles, yes. Shamor v'zachor is to remember. So we're told you have to guard Shabbat. What are these 2 words actually referring to?
This is in the Chadoti, right?
Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha tishmianu. Yes, absolutely, isn't it? Right? Actually, they were said together in one word. Actually, the dibur echat is actually very important words in the Chadoti. Yes.
Is it like to keep Shabbat and not break it?
Exactly. So shamor, write this down, is to not break. How do you guard something? Not break it. What does break Shabbat mean? Do not do the malachot. Malachot.
How many malachot are there?
39 categories of labor. I'll be doing Hilchot Shabbat next semester. Those people who get into that class. The 39 malachot. 39 things. So don't break Shabbat. So all the laws of not breaking come from this word, shamor. Right? Don't write, don't sow, don't plow, don't seed, don't cook. All the 39 malachot come from here. You need glasses, you're squinting. You're like my daughter. I left my glasses at home, right? Just like my daughter. I left them at home, Abba. It's in the front seat. Front seat. I'm too cool for front seat. Okay, shamor. I'll read it out for you. Shamor. God, what's this? What's zachor then? remember. Who forgets it's Shabbat? Well, most Jews do, unfortunately. But what's forgetting over here? What's that referring to?
The creation.
Yeah, anybody?
Remember the creation.
You have to remember creation, but the word refers to all the positive mitzvot. Mitzvot aseh. These are mitzvot law. Right? Taseh. Things you don't do on Shabbat. That's God. But these are the stuff you must remember. The word zachor doesn't mean to just remember like, oh, I remember. Zachor means to do something to remember. So these are the positive mitzvot. Mitzvot aseh. Candles. Right? Kiddush. Yeah? Havdalah. So all the positive mitzvot of Shabbat, you remember, how do you remember? By doing something, right? That's why the word Zachor also appears with Pesach. You remember that we came out of Egypt, eat matzah, don't eat chametz, read the Haggadah, all the mitzvot of Aseh come from Zachor, to remember.
Only do one of them. Like,
You're missing it all.
yeah.
Because as we said a moment ago, the Dibur Achat, they're set together. That's why women are obligated in all the mitzvot of Shabbat, positive and negative. Even though it's a time-bound mitzvah, women are usually not obligated. Why? Because they're set together, they're connected. What are the two reasons for Shabbat? Because you were slaves. Is number one. Reason number two, Hashem created the world.
Wait, what are those two?
These are the two reasons we spoke about. Created the world. That's the reasons the Torah itself says. Keep Shabbat, guard Shabbat, remember Shabbat, because you were slaves in Egypt, and Hashem created the world. So those are the two reasons. Why? Why is that important? So Hashem created the world, because I was a slave, says the Kuzari, one of the great commentators, speaking more about who he was, very interesting book written by Yehuda Levi. He says, you were slaves in Egypt, you're no longer slaves. That's why you get to rest one day a week. Hashem created the world, you're not the creator. You're not the creator. How do I show I'm not the creator? Stop creating. All these malachot are how we create things. Every form of creation in this world comes from these 39. Writing, building, planting. Yeah, you got it? So these are how things are created. So God creates the world, you're not the creator, you are slaves, you're no longer a slave.
So this is why we have Shabbat.
These are two reasons the Torah itself gives us why we keep Shabbat. Keep Shabbat comes in two forms, Zachor and Shamor. Yeah, Zachor, to remember, Shamor to God. What do they refer to? Mitzvot Aseh, Zachor, Mitzvot Lo Taseh, Shamor. Do not break 39 malachot. God, Shamor is the God. Zachor, remember, how do you remember? By doing positive things. What are you remembering? You were slaves, you're no longer a slave. Hashem created the world, you're not the creator. Stop creating one day a week. You testify. I'm giving away the answer already. Yeah.
What does it say next to 39 with the D?
Do not 39, malachot, 39.
Okay.
Do not do 39.
Ah.
Do not break. Shamor. Okay, we're going to the opposite side. We can't stop there. And we'll leave the last two till next class, which is my favorite coupling. Okay?
So, where's the 9?
We're doing 9.
We're doing, well, not yet. No. Yeah, we're doing 9. Yeah, we're doing 9. What's commandment number 9?
Parents.
Not parents. That's number 5.
She said.
Do not be a false witness. What does that mean? It's very simple. We're back in the court of law. We're back in there. And you can't be a false witness. An aid sheker. You cannot be an aid sheker. Actually, people say this is lying. It's not lying. This is the one I made a mistake. This is, people think, oh, it means you cannot lie. No, it means in a court of law under oath. You can't say, I saw that happen when you didn't, or I saw nothing when you did. You must, no, you cannot lie. That's part of Lashon Hara. You cannot lie. That's something else. Oh, actually, we have to define, our next semester, we'll talk about lying is not what you think it is, by the way. Lying is, no, it's a good question. Lying is not what you think it is. Lying is not something. Over here, though, it means in a court of law. Ed, not ad. Ed sheker, a false witness. You cannot lie in a court of law. That means you can't lie anywhere, but specifically in a court of law.
You cannot lie.
What's the connection? What's the connection? One word. One word connection. You can use more than one. I'm cool with that. What's the connection between keep Shabbat and don't be a false witness in a court of law? Truth!
Oh my God, I was gonna
Truth.
say.
Good, you got it, no problem, you got it, sister. Truth! How do we say truth in Hebrew? Emet, 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 truth. Tell the truth about God. You testify, right? Kiddush is called edut. That's why most people in most communities will stand for Kiddush Friday night. Do most people here? Or they'll stand for all of it, Sephardim do, or sit for part of it, right? Some will get up and down like a yo-yo, right? Because you're testifying there's a God. How do you testify there's a God? What is the Jewish way of saying there's a God? We keep Shabbat. That's why it's so important. And we testify truthfully about each other. Where? Especially in a court of law. I ain't going to lie in a court of law under oath, am I? I'm a God-fearing Jew.
Wait, how is the Shabbat the truth?
You give testimony. You tell the truth about God. How do you tell? What's the truth about God? That there's a God. How do we testify there's a God? Keep Shabbat. There's no greater testimony that there's a God who created the world and took us out of Egypt than God, than Shabbat.
Wait, Shabbat is a testimony?
Shabbat, Kiddush is referred to as testimony. But all of Shabbat itself, having Shabbat itself, is the ultimate testimony there's a God. We did a lot today. O-M, big G. We did a lot today. We'll do that. We ran out of time. We'll do the last two next class. But now, you have to get to your next college class. So we're going to stop over there. We'll pick up next class to do the last two, which will be 5 and 10. Au revoir!
Wait, so Rabbi, Shabbat is the ultimate testimony?
Yes, our Shabbat is the ultimate testimony that there is a God that created the universe and keeps it running.